Last map between Kas and his opponent. Kas starting to the top of Heavy Rain, and he is up against Solar, starting to the bottom. We had a little bit of an argument before we are going into this match, because apparently there was a misunderstanding about what the third map would be, and Habitation Station was hosted first, but then Kas explained very convincingly that the map should be Heavy Rain, and in the end now we ended up on this map, which is absolutely fine with me. Heavy Rain is definitely going to be an interesting one. Let's see what Kas can do against Solar here. Game number 1 was won by the Terran player, but then on the second map, on Frost, Solar proved to be a little bit too strong. Played a really good game, and it was more about the first push that Kas tried to execute there that didn't really work well for him, and Solar after that just rolled with it. So right now we're going into this third game, and the one thing that dominated the both games that we saw before were kind of the openings, like the build orders that the players chose. And it looks a little bit like Kas is going into an 11-11. At least he has the barracks already, or the first one being built here at 11. Didn't send out a second SCV yet, and just as I say it, I noticed the red dot here on the map. Haven't seen a double 11 in a long time. Like, I haven't seen that in a long time. And now let's see what Solar is going to do. Because this is so 180 degrees from what's casted in the last few games that it might completely catch Solar off guard. Of course the Zerg player is going into the hatch first once again. The main question is just like when exactly he's going to build his pool. If you remember on Frost, he just went straight into a double hatch before pool, which I do not see him doing a map like Heavy Rain, which is a 2-player map. It would just be way too risky. But he's going into a very delayed spawning pool. He goes into drones, he goes into an extractor, and is now just gonna start his own pool, and that is super late. Like, this is the latest pool basically that you can usually get if you're going into a hatch first and not a double hatch before a pool. You could of course drone up to 18, but then you would have to wait for the drone, so this is kind of the latest one that you could get, which is like the best scenario for Kas right now. So our Terran player now with double barracks is going to aim for that base right over here, and the one thing that we do not see for Solar is vision in this area, since he doesn't have an overlord there. So that base will spawn, and then you will see the bunker, and that is going to be really annoying. The drone is only skirting the edges of the high ground and is now moving to the low ground, but that is already way too late. Like, this scout is not going to do anything, and the hatch is already done. So second bunker is being built immediately. He might even throw down another one, and I think that's actually exactly what he's going to do pretty soon here. Yep, trying to block the ramp here with this as well. Speed has been started for Solar at the same time, and of course the Zerglings. Keep in mind that the Zerg player is now the better harvester count, just because Kas was cutting the SCV production here to get his double barracks out. And now for Solar, this is really uncomfortable. He needs to try to do something about it, but I don't think he can do anything here. Kas even cancelling the bunkers, since he realizes, well, I'm going to get this hatch anyways, and from that point on I don't need anything more than that. So he's going to go back home, and is just going to try to contain his opponent. But this is a big problem. I mean, right now that hatch is a goner, and Solar is faced with a very tough decision. Does he try to break through this? Is he just going to go for like Baneling Nest, for example, or Roach Bust? But he decides to go into the lair tech instead, and that lets me to believe that he's most likely going to show us a Nidus network here and trying to YOLO it with that one Overlord right over here, and maybe even get a Nidus in there. Because what else is he gonna do? Baneling Nest, I could see that still with a Nidus. I don't think he will go into, for example, one base Spire. That just doesn't work because he do not have the gas. At the same time, can he take that natural anytime soon? No, he can't, because those bunkers are still going to do their damage. There's even another one just to block that off completely. So right now, Solar has no option of taking another base. And Kas back at home is just walling this off completely. He knows about the dangers that this entire endeavor poses. The one thing that I'm surprised about is that he did not build a supply depot right over here and just try to make sure that he has the perfect scouting information. He gets the double barracks in there, and that's important. Those two, of course. But he needs scouting information because, as I already said, that Nidus network is not really a big surprise. At least not to me, and I don't think to anyone else either. It's being hidden here But he needs to have something else. Like, Kas, why are you not scouting? He must know by now what's going on. I mean, if you're in a position as a Terran player where you killed your opponent's natural, you know that he can have only a couple of one-base plays, and one of them is a Nidus network. So I'm very, very surprised that we don't see anything to really scout what's happening. And the only explanation that I have is that he doesn't really care if there is one, because he says, like, I can defend against it anyways. My problem is I do not see with what. Because most of the units are at the bottom right, and this is a big issue. And here comes that one, yeah, here comes the supply depot, but I'm really sorry, that is way too late. And the first Baneling that goes through here, that's gonna have a fun time. Zerglings are streaming in, and this is looking horrible for Kas all of a sudden. Like, that one supply depot here, a little bit faster, and he has a chance, but Kas, that was so late. He must have known. Thing is, he still has that bunker here at the bottom, and he has 2 bases, so he's gonna lose a lot in the main base, and what he's currently doing is just like trap those Zerglings in the main. So suddenly this is becoming a very, very interesting, intense match between the two of them. The Marines here are gonna do a little bit of damage, and he can keep those Zerglings there. The problem occurs once that the Lings are gonna be morphed into Banelings and trying to bust through here. Keep in mind that the Zerg is still on 1 base, which is also true for Kas, but the harvest count right now is a little bit better for Solar. It's just the mules that are going to make all the difference here. And of course this is going to be great. I could even see I could even see Solar just expanding right over there, just for the lols. Not really that it's going to be the best option that he has. Marines here are still trying to make something work down here, but that also means that now caught off guard, those bunkers are only manned by 3. Here's the bust that I was talking about with the Banelings, but there are just way too many, too many bunkers here at the bottom. And right now, Kas and Solar are just playing the weirdest game ever. I mean, this game is getting a little bit crazy. This is getting really insane. What Kas could do is maybe get one command center over here, but even that's a stretch. Maybe down here, maybe that would help him a little bit. But there's still a contain on the main base of Solar, so Solar can't do a lot. He's going into roaches and into Baneling. He wants to bust through here and do the damage, but there's another wall right here at the front, and there are of course those 2 bunkers that are gonna do so much for him. More and more supply depots are gonna go down here, and Kas is probably just now really mad at himself, because he's like, well, if I would have built that one supply depot right over here a little bit faster, I could have prevented an entire ordeal and won the game already. And as I said, Solar is really going to hatch his opponent's former main base. So this game is getting on a whole new level of crazy. We have now the orbital command down here on the bottom, which means he can just saturate this one, and even if it's just with mules, that's gonna help him. Bunkers now trying to build them on top. He's trying to just edge his way back into his own main base. This is just a battle that is absolutely insane. They're switching bases, and they're trying to somehow get an advantage. And at this point, I have to say that Solar is actually doing a decent job with his entire army. It's just like the economy that we have down here. We'd love to see Kas drop a couple of mules right there, but right now he doesn't really have the energy to do that. He's probably going to do it with the next set. But here come those Banelings again, and of course also the roaches, and yep, those Baneling hits, they are pretty nasty. Roaches can take down the supply depot. More Marines are walking up, and keep in mind that these Marines, they still don't have stim, they don't have combat shield, they don't have anything. There are a lot of barracks, but there are no tech labs, and without any tech labs he cannot research all these things. He also has a problem building Marauders, which he would love to have against Roach and Banelings, so Marines alone is gonna get pretty iffy. Kas' army is really weak here, and these Marines are also gonna, nice splits here, but still, they are nearly down, and the rest of the Banelings are going to move in, and they are speed Banelings already. Kas is losing way too much here. Solar is looking at 23 harvests against 24. This expansion here is amazing, but the problem is that we have roaches and now also Spinecrawler on the high ground, and that suddenly sieges up the mineral line, which doesn't allow Kas to mine anymore. So he has to go all the way to the left side of the map and take this position over here, which another Nidus network could shut down too. And Solar is just getting more and more headway here. He's playing a great game, and Kas, well, he had the game won, to be quite honest with you, but he threw that away. And at this point, I don't know, he's trying to go into the tech labs I was talking about a little bit earlier, and one of those is probably going to be for the starport here. Just think about what a Cloak Banshee could do in this game. But the problem for him really is, yeah, there's also the Nidus network. I was just mentioning it, that if there is another third base, that the Nidus could take care of it, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. But this time the SCVs might have spotted that in time to take it out. Yeah, they don't react, and that means he has to lift again. He's going to lose the mule, he's going to lose the SCVs, and Kas might be too frustrated here. He's still fighting though. He's still fighting for his chance, and he's now going into Stim, and he's actually going into siege tanks, which is a smart choice. Getting the siege tanks and having one barracks floating for the high ground vision will give him a good chance here. At the front, on the other hand, he's now losing even more of his units. The siege tanks just coming in there in time. Needs to fall a little bit farther back, and he's trying to find a position where he can defend this, especially of course the tac lab, and at the same time do some damage to the spine crawl over here, and he found that sweet spot. But let's talk a little bit about what Solar is doing. Solar is currently just utilizing everything that he has. He's going to Spire, he has this main base over here now as his natural, but he doesn't really have a lot of saturation there, and he realizes that it's starting to get a little bit dangerous to be there. He's not even trying to defend it anymore, instead he's just going to break through those bunkers and claiming that natural of his, because this is a base that he will have to give up. Like, he was really trying to claim that high ground, but with siege tanks now in the game and with the Marines closing into Stim, it's gonna get very, very unlikely that he can hold that. And he's just now trying to evacuate maybe the drones, losing one, losing actually only one of them. So, an absolutely insane game that we have here. The Nidus network is finally down. Another Nidus has been killed over there, so this means that finally he can take this base. He is also trying to get control of this main base again. We have on the other hand the Spire tech now coming up, and the gas is there for Solar, but he has one mining base because he had to rebuild this one. Those two are trying to get an award for the weirdest game ever, at least in 2014, and I think that award is something that they will get. In 2014, this was definitely the craziest game that I've seen so far. I mean, trading the bases, getting them back, Kas being ahead, being behind, being ahead again. This is starting to get very, very cool. Especially since the Mutalisks are right now also adding a little bit of additional flavor to the entire match. Since there's just basically no anti-air there. So you can bounce between the bases. And I don't really think that Kas is counting for the potential of there being Mutalisks. He's thinking about it at some point, I guess, but his brain is not really there, where he says like, oh yeah, I should probably get an engineering bay and start my missile turrets, because he's gonna have that soon. Timings flew out the window 3 minutes into the game already, and now it's time for run-bys. It's time for decision making on the fly and just being flexible in the game. And that decision making is what will win the game for one of these two players. Double siege tank push now with the Marines, including Stim, and nice getting those rocks in position at the right time. But the Mutalisks are going to chase the command center down. That orbital is going to go down. He can do whatever he wants there, but there is no way for him to repair it. And bye-bye orbital. What does that mean? That means we have a one-base economy for Kas now. He's trying to get that second command center, but he will have to clear out those creep tumors first before he can land it over there. And land it in his main base. Hello. At the same time, though, we have Kas looking at the army supply with a 69 against 50. And Solar doesn't really have all that much. If you look at the resources lost, it's pretty much the same for both of them. But it's just this army that I don't think Solar can beat. Well, he might be if he gets good bailing detonates, but now more Marines are streaming across the map, and he is on a clock here. He's moving in already, trying to snipe his opponent's siege tanks, and that's exactly what he does. And those are the key units, and with them gone, suddenly Solar has a fighting chance, and he's using it. He has the bailing speed upgrade already, and he's just going in, claiming victory in this fight. And without the siege tanks, this is a whole new ball game. He never used the scan up here to take down those two creep tumors, and that lets me to believe that Kas is starting to be very, very all-inish with this. He's gonna get crushed with this army. I mean, the stim upgrade is gonna help him, but as soon as those... Well, actually, hold that thought, because those banelings might never see the light of day. And suddenly, it is such a close fight. The drone's coming off the mineral line, and finally he's taking that out. But Solar lost so much as well. The harvester count now is 31 against 34, and keep those double mules in mind. There are still two command centers. And, well, the dropship might just be able to get away, but at the same time we have the next army right over here taking down the creep tumors, and now finally this creep is going to recede, which means that the command center, the orbital, can just land over here and reclaim the main base. What an insane game! Solar is running out of resources in his main base, which means he has to take a third base, which would be this one, but he also doesn't really know how big the army of Kas is, so he's a little bit afraid that if he takes another base that he doesn't have the resources to build the units that he will need to fend off the next attack. So this game is absolutely insane, and the Mutalisks are just adding their strength to it by always darting in and doing a little bit of damage here. Kas double engineering bay right now, going into double upgrades. And if you look at the Harvester's kills, 21 by Solar against only 2. But there's another army moving in right now. And Solar, I don't think he has what it takes to stop this push. We do have combat shield, we do have stim, we do have siege tanks. And what does Solar have? He has 6 Mutalisks and he needs to shut down those 2 tanks. This is like the biggest thing for him right now. Somehow kill those tanks. I'm not quite sure if he can. The drop on the high ground is already going to take down a few of the Overlords if he isn't careful. And yes, the speed advantage is of course great for the Banelings, but that only means they get into the range of the siege tanks faster. And with good micro on those medivacs, it just looks more and more like Solar might not be able to get out of this position. Here comes the flank on the other hand. He's aiming for those siege tanks and nice Baneling detonations against the first wave of Marines. The second one running right into the tanks is probably one that he wanted to avoid and save up for the Marines themselves. But suddenly the Marines realize that they have a shot at taking down the Spire, and that's exactly what they do. And also it's time for the Overlord and the Nidus network to die here. The only thing that Kas has to do is just pick up his units and fly back home once he's done that. And that will already leave him in a pretty good spot, since he's the one who suddenly has a mining base over here again. We have now Solar even supply blocked. The 1-1 attack upgrades is nearly completed, and it looks more and more like Kas is going to be able to take this game. I mean, this game is absolutely insane. Solar looked like he was dead after his hatch was going down. Then we had him here being contained. He goes into the Nidus network, scouted way too late. Kas should have known what was coming. Nidus goes in, takes this base out. Kas goes over here, tries to expand again, is being sieged up here, tries to expand to the left side. The Zerg player breaks through, takes his natural again, techs into Mutalisks as well, and is starting to apply pressure. This game is just absolutely nuts. I mean, he's going into the natural, into the main base right now, of all things, taking down a few Harvesters here. This is absolutely crazy. And, well, right now, looking at this, we have finally Kas starting to stabilize, and that's probably going to be the thing that breaks Solar's backbone, because there are missile turrets in the game right now that can protect the space. There's another third base coming up for Solar, who's completely out of mineral patches in his main. The same is going to be true for Solar at the natural, by the way. At the natural. We're 24 minutes into the game. This game started with an 11 level, ladies and gentlemen. And with a killed main base, or a killed hatch for Solar, and then a killed main base for Kas. But right now, both of them are running out of resources, and that's especially true, of course, for Kas. Solar has a few more patches down here, but Solar doesn't have the army size. Burrowed Banelings might be what he needs here, but this is 87 army size against 43. He's moving in. He needs the best Baneling hits in his life if he wants to win that game. And he actually snipes one of the tanks. But can he snipes the second one, and Marines alone might not be... Oh my god, yeah, sorry, but like this was a bit too much. He doesn't have the resources. With the bank he might have been able to just rebuild his army, but no. Solar, he loses the GG called, and Kas, he takes the series and advances now to face another player of Samsung Galaxy. He's going to face, I think it's Armani in the next round of the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final. I'm pretty sure we're going to cast that one too, because that was a pretty sick series that we saw here. Let's see if the next one is as exciting as this one was. Congratulations to Kas, and I'm sorry for Solar here. Nice effort, but still he had a bit of a handicap with the European server here. But Kas, great game by him. A bit of an earlier scout in the main base would have helped him a lot though. That would have probably shortened the game quite a bit.